let's just all right. Let's wrap this one up because the technical difficulties are driving me insane.
I know. I'm sorry, man.
All right. So let's go into our movie review, which is this week, uh, rounding out our month of dystopia films, is Idiocracy. And for those of you unaware, it was a movie that came out in 2005, written and directed by Mike Judge, Beavis and Butthead, and King of the Hill fame. And it's a story of this, of this man who's, pretty average, who's pretty average, and he's selected to partake in this experiment along with a woman named Rita, played by Maya Rudolph, and it was a suspended animation experiment, and they were only supposed to be frozen for a year, but something happens, and they're forgotten about, and what is it? I think 500 years go by. 500 years go by, and the pods open, and they awaken to a world where not all is as it should be. Um, everything is run by uh, this giant conglomerate that runs everything, and but people are seem to have dipped in intelligence, and 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 uh, uh, the character of Joe Bowers, played by Luke Wilson, the kind of everyman, he then wakes up to find out that he is the smartest man on the planet, and and then so he goes on, and then he has like this this adventure of him trying to teach people about crops, and how to grow things, and uh, it's a very entertaining movie, kind of frightening to imagine a world like that.
Yeah,
What
it's
are
kind
some of your
of
thoughts, Robert?
um yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of I think you know now 14 years ago when that came out, it's just hilarious. It's like, oh, that's crazy, but I I think if we continue down the path that we're going down, this is easily where we would end up, because you look at when they do wake up 500 years later, and this to be honest, this is a comedy, obviously, but
Right.
you have everything is still kind of there in a sense, but everything is a shell of itself because the intelligence is so low, um, that like they because you still see like a form of government and like all the things that you would see today, but it's kind of all not the same. And I kind of see this as kind of starting to happen today, where you have people that are in government that get elected into government, but they really have no idea how the government works or runs, and they look like idiots.
Right. The
And
president at
this,
the time that Luke Wilson's Joe Bowers character wakes up, he's a professional wrestler.
yeah,
What was it? President Camacho.
yeah,
Yeah.
played by Terry Crews.
Yeah. Terry, played by Terry Crews. And yeah, and then there was when I guess after he woke up and he went, he went to go see a doctor, but the doctor, didn't, was too dependent on machines and didn't like even look at Joe or like physically examine him, but instead just like put him into a machine and like press the button. Um, everything kind of worked, but it was like it was like one step away from just all falling apart because of either the age or the lack of maintenance on certain equipment.
Yeah. Uh, and so it's just kind of it's kind of a scary thought because I always Joe Rogan has a great bit on this where it's yeah, the the dumb people tend to outfuck the smart people, and
Right,
that's how
and
like a lot of
what was it?
civilizations fall.
The Yeah, Mike Judge. He even kind of calls that out. Like while Joe was sleeping, you know, uh, and I guess to kind of represent the dumb people. The trailer park people like are breeding like crazy, but the smart, well-to-do people, have like one kid, and so yeah,
They
so literally the dumb people are outbreeding the smart people.
yeah, and that's how like a lot of civilizations fall, and it's kind of and you see that today. It's like, and I think part of it, all the stuff that we've talked about today too, is how the government has kind of infiltrated a lot of the things in our life, and so the actual education like level of a lot of people, they're not gaining the basics.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, there's cases where English majors go through, they get their degree, they've never read a work of Shakespeare. It's like,
Hmm.
how is that possible? Um, or And I think the more that we continue down, if we continue the path that we're going down, and thankfully I'll be dead, but you know, um, this is exactly
Come on,
what's
Rob. You gotta
happening. It's
think of
just
the
people are going to
children.
get dumber and dumber. Well, I know why. Yeah. I am in horror.
Yeah.
It scares me to think about like whatever like my children will have to
Yeah.
deal with. But
I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying because just in my just recently there's a kid at my church and he's into photography and because I think I'd mentioned before we at my church we started like a creative arts ministry and so he came to me and asked for mentorship. So I was like, okay, I'll take you under my wing. I'll teach you some things. And so, I gave him a simple task. I asked him to go. Well, I asked him what type of photography he's interested, in, and he said landscape and portraits. And so I gave him a relatively simple assignment, and that was to photograph me some landscapes at three different times. One at sunrise, one at midday, and the third at sunset. And I gave him a month to do it. And it's coming up onto that month. And, periodically I would check in with him. Um, and he's like, oh, I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it. Every time I saw him, he's like, oh, I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet. He's like, and he said like, oh, I'm busy with work and things like that. So being understanding, I said, all right, I'll make it simple. And he doesn't have his own car. So I made it a little simpler for him. I said, I asked him where he lived, and and then I knowing the area, there's a outlook um, that over the entire valley. So I said, all right, go to that place at sunrise, midday, and sunset, and take me, snap some landscapes, and then get back to me. And this past week, I saw him and I asked him, "Hey, how's it going? It's almost the end. It's almost been a month." and you have to show me what you did, and he still hasn't done it yet. And and I think I think I've been pretty. I think I was being pretty accommodating, and I even simplified the task for him, and yet he still hasn't done it. And it's not as though and it's
It's
not
like,
as
what I mean, what does he
though
want to do? Like, he held up a gun.
I mean, yeah, and it's like, do I have to, like hold you by the hand and, take you to, do this thing? Or, because he's not, I mean, I call him a kid, but, he's not that, it's not like it's not as though he's, like 13 or something. He's in like his late teens, almost 20s.
Jesus.
And, and so yeah, so I gave I accommodated him and made the task as achievable as possible, and yet still given because he came to me for mentorship. I wasn't like I was forcing anything on him. He asked me, hey, I want to get better at taking pictures. Can you help me? I was like, okay. And I mean,
It makes me wonder if like he actually like is even interested in photography. I would love to see like what type of pictures is he taking.
right. I mean, if he's just and I know he has like his own like digital SLR camera. I mean, not as nice as mine, but still, something that that I myself might use professionally. Uh, and it's just it's and it kind of just it's like it's kind of infuriating. It's kind
Oh
of
yeah, no,
infuriating
that would completely.
because I mean, like when I was in school, like I would have like maybe a week or 2 weeks to work on assignments, and I had like multiple assignments going on at the same time. And yes, I was older when I went back to school, but they were like I was in school with kids, and they were still doing the work and things like that, and everything that they were being asked of. So I mean, I don't know what this kid is doing or how he's managing his time, but I don't know. I told him like if he doesn't do it, if he doesn't have something to present to me, by next week, there will be punishment to exacted. So
Yeah, but yeah, but to get back to like the movie, it's really funny. I really liked it,
yeah,
but
I
it's
yeah,
also kind of this like horror. It's kind of like a horrifying thought that this is kind of like where we're going.
yeah, yeah. Again, at the time when I watched it, I was like, oh man, this is so hilarious. This could never happen in a million years. But then flash forward 14 years, and it's like, holy shit.
I mean, you look at like the film that was the big film called Ass that they were watching that like won
Oh
like
yeah,
Oscars and all this stuff.
yeah.
It's like that's it going on with like contemporary art and the movie industry nowadays. We're getting this you know garbage that but everyone's like raving and loving it. It's like this is nothing.
Uh, funny that you happen to bring that up because I do have some thoughts on the recent movie Us because I watched it last night, but I'll save it for the very end. But
Yeah.
exactly, and and kind of similarly how I was, kind of making it, making a task, the task for like this kid I know, that's what the Academy has been did recently with like how they opened up the field for Best Picture and they nominated Black Panther for Best Picture. Like no like
Yeah.
yeah no other comic book movie has ever gotten that, you know, that accolade, being like just being nominated for Best Picture. I mean, I was pretty sure that they weren't gonna just give it to him, but just the fact that they were nominated and they like opened the field, because usually you only have like 4 to 6 movies for Best Picture, but they opened it up that year just so they can accommodate Black Panther.
Man, it was just nuts, man. I don't know, like I enjoyed the movie a lot, but like I, this is it's kind of I mean it ends on like somewhat of a happy note, but it's still kind of like depressing.
Yeah, I mean, because spoiler alerts. The bad guy dies. When he was just trying to maybe not in the best way reconnect with his culture, um, and maybe trying to make right what he felt was an injustice. But there was there's no way for him to like be redeemed, and I think Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger uh, was a very interesting character, and I think he even potentially could have gone the Loki route and redeem himself.
Which movie are we talking about?
Black Panther.
Oh, no, I was saying I was still talking about Idiocracy. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just kind of went on a tangent. Uh, Talking about the Academy Awards and how like they kind of like are dumbing things down, and that they nominate Black Panther.
Right, yeah.
But yes,
And Black Panther wasn't like it was not a bad movie, but it's not like Oscar. When I think of like if I look to like we've been watching a lot of classic films, like a lot of the Oscar accolades.
mm-hmm.
Black Panther does not even come close to that at all.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, if we were gonna nominate comic book movies for Best Picture, Dark Knight and Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Oh, I definitely agree on Dark Knight.
Yeah. Well, yeah. In terms of like story, and Captain America: Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel movie, possibly after the first Iron Man. But it was just a really good story, just in general. It was a good kind of like spy thriller where you had to figure things out, and then there's also like a twist. Um, just a really, that it really, I think it really, if not won, then deserved a nomination for Best Picture for that year. Um, but anyways, let's close things out with the rating. Robert, what do you give this movie?
I definitely give it a 3. It's funny, kind of scary at the same time, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like all the pretty star-studded cast of a bunch of different character actors.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just a really well thought out, funny, scary type of movie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'd give it a 3 as well. Yeah, it's a really well done comedy. Slightly frightening in today's context. Definitely worth a watch. Um,
Yeah, because this is my first time. I mean, I've heard of the movie, but I've watched it, so I'm glad I was to sit down and
right.
finally watch it.
Right. And I mean, if you're a fan of Mike Judge's like kind of sensibilities, then because if you watched Office Space or
Horrible Bosses.
oh yeah, wait, he wrote Horrible Bosses too.
I think so.
I'll have to double check that, but yeah, yeah.
I believe it was him, but I might be wrong. Now you're making me doubt myself. So
Oh, sorry about that. All right, well that'll do it for that for our movie review. Robbie gives it a 3. I give it a 3. Definitely recommend you watching it for either for a good laugh
yeah,
or
absolutely.
maybe as something that's kind of scare you straight.